Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Force. Yes, once again, this is not Beyond the Saga. I am here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good tonight. Doing good. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Inside the Force.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about this one.
I know, right? I had to bring you on here as the title suggests. We are going to be doing a deep dive into Shadow of the Sith. Now, this is something we can't do on Beyond the Saga. That's why I had her come on this show. We don't do spoilers on Beyond the Saga. So, unfortunately, this is probably coming out before that. So, if you want to,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, at the end of this episode, if you wait to come back and finish. But we're not. I feel like we might not talk too much about the story. We are going to talk about characters and kind of the impact of this thing, really. You know what I mean? But obviously, that might evolve into kind of revealing some things. But just that's a warning.
It's nothing too major that's going to make you feel like you've had the whole thing ruined for you.
Yeah, very much so. I think so. There's going to be a lot of things that we don't touch on that are very, very exciting in the book.
Yes.
But first and foremost, of course, as always, I want to start off by thanking our patrons, especially for all your contributions and all your I just lost my train of thought. All your support. Yeah, that's right. Support.
It's been one of those weeks.
it has been. It's been a long. Hannah's had a longer one than me right now. But yeah, thank you as always. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for everything. And some of you, I think, have just recently got some merch. So hopefully that worked out really well for y'all. Getting close to getting our actual merch store live here soon, so you can get some exclusive shirts. This is not one of them. I wish it was, but this is not one of them. I have a couple on there that I'm gonna get myself, and then I'll sport them on here. But Hannah, I'll get you some too.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you as always. Yeah, youtube.com/inside the force. And then of course we're on all the podcast feeds out there. Okay. First thing I want to touch on a little bit of some news stuff. One, I thought it was interesting. So what has happened in the past with the Disney Plus series is that, for example, like Mandalorian and then Book of Boba Fett and The Bad Batch, every time an episode usually airs, that following week, you can go to StarWars.com and there's new databank entries, right? If there's a new character, they'll have it's in there. Well, they didn't do that with Obi-Wan Kenobi. They didn't have any databank entries for Obi-Wan Kenobi when the season was coming out. So I thought it was kind of odd. But just recently, they dropped a ton of new databank entries from Obi-Wan Kenobi in there. So everybody wants to kind of read up on all these things on StarWars.com from Obi-Wan. For example, there's a whole thing now on Nur, which is where the Inquisitor fortress is, the water planet. Vader's castle is a new entry. There's Spice. Little Leia has a picture of little Leia on there now. The fortress itself, the hidden path, which is what Obi-Wan and Leia find, the group that's helping Jedi survivors. Mapuzo, which is one of the planets that they go to, the Spice one. Fifth Brother has a new entry in there. So it's like Tika, the little Jawa that Obi-Wan is running around. So you got all these. And also, because I was curious whether or not if that was a familiar city that Obi-Wan was on Tatooine. Was it Mos Eisley? Was it Mos Espa? Was it Anchorhead? Well, according to the databank, it was Mos Eisley that he was in. So, but the shot where at the beginning of the last episode, you've seen all of them, right, Hannah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So at the beginning of the last episode, when Owen and Luke go into that store, that shop, before the guy comes in and warns him. That's actually Anchorhead.
Oh.
So again, you don't know these things unless you read the databank, right? So anyway, there's Dayu's on here, the city that they take to kidnap Leia. So anyway, lots of new entries in the Obi-Wan databank. So go check that out, StarWars.com, if you want to go. And the planet that they have the final battle on, there's no name for it. It's just called a barren moon. So not a name of the planet yet. So it must be uncivilized or whatever, unpopulated. So anyway, cool. It's a cool entry.
Very, very
I always go to databank every once in a while to see what's in there. And I just noticed it the other day. So, okay. Then the other thing I wanted to just mention kind of falls in our Beyond the Saga a little bit. So Charles Soule, who is arguably one of the best writers out there. I've mentioned on the show several times that he has been writing a trilogy of comics centered around, as we know now, Kira. So he wrote the first of the trilogy, which was War of the Bounty Hunters, which brought back Crimson Dawn and Kira, the whole thing with Boba Fett and Frozen in Carbonite Han Solo. And then the second part of that was called Crimson Reign, which just ended. So we will eventually do a Beyond the Saga on that whole series, that 5-issue series, which takes place, again, roughly around the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi time. Mm-hmm. But now the third one is about to start here in a couple months, and it's called Hidden Empire. And it's more about Kira and her battles against... There's a preview out there that even shows her fighting the Emperor.
Interesting.
Yes. So that's... I think it starts in November, so it's a 5-issue run that starts in November. So they just released the first cover and all that stuff. So if you want to kind of read up on that out there right now, that's coming soon. Charles Soule, Hidden Empire. And then also, along with, of course, all the other storylines will be continuing this year, like Star Wars, Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, Bounty Hunters. But a new one starts in November as well, and that's Yoda. There's a Yoda comic series coming, which that is my favorite character, so I'm stoked about that. A lot of rumors about possibly knowing like his backstory and his origins and stuff like that. I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but that's the rumor. So we will see.
That'll be very interesting to see, especially because we already know he's in High Republic. He's alive in High Republic time.
That's right.
So it'll be very interesting to see exactly how that all comes to play or when it takes place.
Yeah, I part of me feels like I maybe read that it does take place around the High Republic time, but then there's apparently a lot of flashbacks though, like kind of through the years kind of thing, but I don't know if that's just rumors or if that's somebody had the inside scoop or not, but I don't think it's anything to do with it's when he was a Jedi. So was it High Republic or was it, I mean part of me is like I'm still in that camp where part of me doesn't really care if I ever know his home planet or anything like that. Like, I don't know if I ever need that.
There's something nice about that being a mystery,
Absolutely.
I don't know if it would be a relief to know exactly what his species is called, or if it will kind of destroy the mystery and the awness that Yoda carries with him.
Well, even that's the one thing too, is it a mystery of what he is in the Star Wars universe? Like,
right.
Like surely they've identified his species, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, like if they identified his species, wouldn't we have seen it in The Mandalorian? Or
well, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they know about that species, but they just haven't. It's just a rare species. Obviously, maybe they're like wiped out, but we just haven't been told as an audience like they're called this. I don't know.
But would that shatter something for you regarding
No,
Yoda?
I don't think
Or
so.
would you be like, yeah.
No,
You
I actually think if it's an interesting enough story, I think it'd be interesting to know why there's not many of them, you know, because if they're a rare or extinct species, by the time the Mandalorian comes out, it's like where did Baby Yoda come from? Where Grogu come from? So
Yoda's grandson.
Yoda's grandson. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, you never know.
We'll find out.
Could be a clone of Yoda in the end.
What? Yoda was also cloning. Like, did Yoda know all along that Palpatine was cloning? So he was in preparation.
I don't know. I don't know if he knew. Maybe somehow the Emperor got his DNA and then cloned him. See, you never know.
Mind blown. Oh
you
no.
Never know. We'll hopefully find out in this comic series. Maybe we'll find something out. Okay. All right. Real quick rundown of the publishing world. A little bit novels. The Princess. We were just talking about this. The Princess and the Scoundrel just came out this past week. If y'all want to know about Han and Leia's wedding, this is it. Takes place literally right after Return of the Jedi. They're still on Endor celebrating. And apparently, I think they get married like within a day or two from Return of the Jedi.
They practically eloped, right?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, that's I thought maybe they got married like 6 months later, but I don't think so. I think it's like
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? They didn't wait. Right now on the, and I only talk about the adult novels and young adult novels. Because Princess Scoundrel is a young adult novel.
Yes.
That's as far as I know on the release list, that's the only one the last one that's come out this year that's not in the High Republic era. Because the rest of this year, on October 4th, you've got the High Republic kicks off Phase 2.
Oh, dang.
With Path of Deceit. Yes. And then November 15th, Convergence, the High Republic Convergence. And then they've already released the release date for Path of Vengeance, which is May 2nd, and that concludes Phase 2 of the High Republic.
Jeez.
Yeah, we got to get on the High Republic stuff.
So behind.
I know, right? Yeah, we still got a couple novels still to hit up on the High Republic still before we get to Phase 2. Okay, in the comics world, this past week you got Star Wars 26 and The Mandalorian number 2. And then next week you've got Vader 26, Aphra 23. And then in September you've got, first week of September, you got Star Wars number 27, Bounty Hunters 27, Obi-Wan number 5. And then others in September, Mandalorian, Dr. Aphra, Han Solo, and Chewbacca. So lots of storylines still continuing there. A lot of issues in the 20s now, so they're making pretty good runs. I did find out too that I didn't know this, but the Han Solo and Chewbacca series is actually a 10-issue run. So I thought it was a 5 or 6, but that's a 10-issue run. But number 6 will be coming out next month. Okay, that is your publishing update. Now, let's get into Shadow of the Sith. Okay. So, anyway, me and Hannah both finished this recently. She finished it before I did. I believe we both listened to it, right?
You did.
Yes. So, Shadow of the Sith, novel that just came out June 28th, written by Adam Christopher. And this, I mean, I'm sure everybody listening, if not everybody, most people listening to the show, have surely read about what this thing is about, roughly. I mean, the publisher summary is pretty long, but it basically says the Empire's dead. Nearly two decades on from the Battle of Endor, the tattered remnants of Palpatine's forces have fled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But for the heroes of the New Republic, danger and loss are ever-present companions, even in this newly forged era of peace. Jedi Master Luke Skywalker is haunted by visions of the dark side, foretelling an ominous secret growing somewhere in the depths of space on a dead world called Exegol. The disturbance of the Force is undeniable, and Luke's worst fears are confirmed when his old friend Lando Calrissian comes to him with reports of a new Sith menace. After his daughter was stolen from his arms, Lando searched the stars for any trace of his lost child, but every new rumor only led to dead ends and fading hopes until he crossed paths with Ochi of Bestoon, a Sith assassin tasked with kidnapping a young girl. Ochi's true motives remain shrouded to Luke and Lando. For on a junkyard moon, a mysterious envoy of the Sith Eternal has bequeathed a sacred blade to the assassin, promising that it will give him answers to the questions that have haunted him since the Empire fell. In exchange, he must complete a final mission, return to Exegol with the key to the Sith's glorious rebirth, the granddaughter of Darth Sidious himself, Rey. As Ochi hunts Rey and her parents to the edge of the galaxy, Luke and Lando race to the mystery of the Sith's lingering shadow and aid a young family running for their lives. So that's the publisher summary, meaning that this thing takes place 17 years after Return of the Jedi, meaning it's 13 years before The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. So Rey is, I think, 6, roughly, right?
Very young, 5 or 6.
5 or 6. And Luke's got his academy going, because Ben Solo's even briefly mentioned in this a little bit. Laura Santeca's in this thing a little bit. But the bottom line is this thing, the publisher summary should say, this answers all the questions from The Rise of Skywalker.
Not even just The Rise of Skywalker, the entire freaking sequel trilogy.
Yes. So, I know we kind of, in Beyond the Saga, we kind of give our overall impressions, but I just want to kind of dive right in. I mean, again, warning that we are going to openly talk about everything about this book. So wherever this goes, this goes. I don't have a full agenda, but I just kind of I definitely want to hit on some characters here and there. But, but here's the thing. First things first, for me in a way, when I see Shadow of the Sith and I see the cover has a Sith on it. To me now, at first, I remember when I first looked at it, I think I mentioned to you, I thought it was Snoke, yes. Not realizing until I got into it that that's a mask, because the mask even kind of looks like Snoke a little bit.
It does.
But I didn't have the book in front of me, right? I just had the image online. So, but again, not the publisher summary doesn't really mention too much about the Sith and what's actually happening in the book. I think that's what's, to me, what was incredible about the book. But I guess let's dive in first of your thoughts on what does this do in relation to the sequel trilogy? Like, let's talk about Rey and her parents. Like, I want to go there first. I want because that was to me, coming out of, that was the lingering question throughout the whole sequel trilogy, right? Mm-hmm. Were her parents nobody, or were they somebody? Ultimately, they were somebody. They were he was the dang clone of Palpatine, technically. But how much of that story, what about that story really, changed your mind or helped answer anything? I don't know. Just let's focus on that. And what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I have to go back to something that you mentioned when you got to that part of the book, and we were talking, I don't know if it was a week or two ago, and you said, wait, the math doesn't add up. If Rey's father is in his early 30s.
That's right.
If he's in his early 30s, and this takes place 17 years after Return of the Jedi, that means that all of this has been happening on Exegol during the original saga. And yes. That is insane. I mean, and in Beyond the Saga, you and I constantly point out moments where we're like, oh, look, there's Palpatine mentioning the cloning, or, oh, that could be evidence towards him. But this is concrete proof that he's been doing cloning in the background the entire time. But this also means that there's this cult on Exegol.
Yes.
And a literal cult. So that makes you realize, oh, what we see in The Rise of Skywalker, those are real people.
Yes.
And there's a freaking cult in a gladiator-like stadium cheering on Palpatine.
That's right.
And
That's
it's
right.
just, so for me, I absolutely love their story. And I love, like, it's no secret. They leave Rey on Jakku to protect her. That's no secret. That's not a spoiler. But to see everything leading up to that moment and to understand how they were living their lives and how he escaped Exegol to try to live his own life because he knew that something wasn't right. And he knew that he would never live up to Palpatine's expectations. It makes you understand why they made the choice they made because, you know, I don't have kids, but you have kids. Could you leave one of your daughters behind to protect them?
Oh my gosh, that is a hard question. I don't know which one you think I'm leaning towards, but I mean, I couldn't. But then again, it's like if I knew they would be okay, regardless of what happened to me, then I don't know. I'm telling you, it's a tough decision.
But like reading that book, when you get to that point, you're like, I totally get why they make that decision.
Of course, yes.
So, but I think the unique thing is, yes, we're starting with their story and how their story, you know, is like so many questions are answered, but their story is so, when you first read the book, you're wondering, okay, how are these all going to intersect? Mm-hmm. How are all these 4 different stories going to start crossing paths? And I feel like you can't just simply address their story without addressing all of the other stories because they do all weave together.
Yep.
I mean, it's insane. But starting with them, that's what I think is that you just learn a lot about them. You learn about Rey as a child, but it's more or less focused on her parents and what her parents had to go through and why they made that choice in the end.
Yeah, it's definitely the backstory I think that we somehow should have gotten in the movies.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, because there's still, even though it's revealed that he was it's not even revealed that he was a clone. Because I remember walking out of Rise of Skywalker thinking, well, dang, I guess the Emperor got busy and had a child, and then they had him, and then he gets out there and, you know, gets married and has Rey. But there is a story there about how he was created. He was a failed, they called him some kind of strandcast, right? Is that what they called it? Yeah.
Something like that. He was a failed clone.
Failed clone but not a failed, human developed. Like he fully developed, no aging problems or anything like that. He's a normal person, even though he was made from Palpatine's DNA. So he's not technically a son, but because he doesn't look like him, he looks like a son. But that's vital information. I feel like that. I don't know if they knew that in Rise of Skywalker.
I think it's implied in a couple of places, but it's not. It's not.
I don't think it's implied at all, because I don't even know. We didn't even know which of the parents was related to Palpatine, did we?
I don't think we.
I don't think it was ever.
When I saw the Snokes floating in the tubes, I'm like, oh, Palpatine's been cloning. So then when he mentions a granddaughter, I'm like, so one of his clones had a daughter. So that was where my mind immediately went.
Oh, my mind didn't go there at all. Because he only says he made Snoke. I thought he had a kid, and then the kid had Rey, but I didn't know if it was the son or the daughter, or the mother or the father that
is true.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know if he had a daughter or a son. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that could have been easily corrected in one dialogue or one bit of dialogue. You know what I mean? And maybe that was, remember like in the very beginning when Kylo finds Exegol and finds, he says, what about the girl? Like maybe more than likely he probably told him the whole story then. So Kylo knew the whole story. Why didn't we get that pieces of that conversation later to kind of let us know as an audience what Kylo knew? Because Kylo, when he was talking to Rey about it, that you're a Palpatine, he should have explained, like, I can't remember what he said then. Did he say, he didn't say he had a son or anything like that? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because he just says they went looking for a girl.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, he could have said, he cloned a son, and the son had you, and you're a Palpatine. I don't know. It's just it just answered so much about that. And you're right. So the whole thing about this thing is, like I read in the summary, is that Ochia Bestoon, who is a Sith, kind of a Sith loyalist in a sense. He's not a Sith, but he's a Sith assassin. Mm-hmm. He's tasked with finding Rey and bringing, because that's the whole. Again, it's the continuing plot is the Rise of Skywalker. Like, this is where it started. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's been looking for Rey since she was born.
Yeah.
And which is amazing, because it's like you wonder if he ever stopped looking. By the time the Force Awakens come, did he think that was her? When when Snoke, all of this, when Kylo encountered Rey and told Snoke that there's, she's strong in the Force, and I don't know. It's like, God, I'm throwing out so many things here, but like even in The Last Jedi, and Snoke is experiencing Rey and has her there, it's like, how much does Palpatine actually know about what Snoke is doing? Like, is truly Snoke independent? I think he was, but why wouldn't he contact Palpatine if he knew about Palpatine, looking for this girl? I don't know. Like, he could have like knocked her out and took her to Exegol right then, and then he would have. The movie would have went a different route.
Well, it could also be that Snoke was like, "Oh, if she's so powerful, maybe I'll get her power instead." Like, he might not have completely understood who she was, but if she was valuable to Palpatine and he's interested in overthrowing Palpatine, then he would want her to himself, right?
Yeah, and that would make it. That would mean and make sense that Snoke was independent, like he was making his own choices. Yeah. He wasn't totally guided by Palpatine. So, okay, let's talk about this. Let's dive into the Sith a little bit here, because that was another aspect that I was like just blown away by. How much backstory we got with Exegol, with the Sith Eternal, with the, what was it called? The Acolytes of the Sith, right? Or was it Acolytes of the Beyond, I think, or something like that is what it's called.
And like, I mean, there's so much lore. And
yes.
It is like, I'm not going to lie, when we first started going down this path, I was like, oh, are we talking about Horcruxes here? Like, Sith can take their soul and put it into items?
Yeah, that's like, Sith Artifacts. Yes, that's pretty much what it is.
Like, it's insane. And and then we get introduced to this other Sith, and oh shoot, what's his name? I'm blanking out on him. His name.
The Sith with the mask?
Yes.
Exum Panchard.
Sith Panchar? Like, yes. His whole oh my gosh. It's absolutely terrifying. The fact that it's not just they infuse part of themselves into an artifact. It's if you decide to interact with said artifact, you yourself could be influenced.
Yes.
That explains a lot. especially in like some of the other things that we've been reading, because we see a little bit here and there. It's like, okay. And we even see it with Ochi, and it was mentioned in the author's note, the weapon that he was given, it started trying to control him.
Yep.
So it answers a lot, but it's like, to me, it just raises the stakes that much more, because then you're like, oh my gosh, what does Luke have that competes with this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because as far as we know, the Jedi don't have it.
No.
You get introduced to new Sith, and you get introduced to the artifacts, you get introduced to the cult on Exegol, you get introduced to, it really is mind-blowing.
It is.
It makes me wonder if the way that Snoke first started talking to talking to Ben, is if he got his hands on a Sith artifact.
That's very true too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so that's a way that conversation could have happened without anyone else knowing.
Absolutely. Yep.
I don't know. Totally it opens the door to all these different possibilities.
Yeah, because Palpatine even told Kylo that I've been the voice in your head this whole time.
Yes.
Know? So and a little backstory on the Sith artifacts. I think Corey and I have been wanting to talk about that on Dark Knowledge a little bit, I recall, now could be completely wrong. I don't know how much Sith artifacts were part of the the old legend stuff stories. I don't know if any of them ever popped up during that. I don't know about any of them.
Yeah, I can't remember anything like that being mentioned.
Yeah. So in the comics, though, when this whole new canon started, there's a comic that we need to cover too. It's called Lando, and it's it's Lando Calrissian, and it's during the time between episodes 4 and 5. It's before he meets our heroes again.
All right.
And he kidnaps or steals basically the Emperor's shuttle. And there's all kinds of Sith artifacts on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and one of them is a mask that ends up, being, I got to reread it again because it's been a while, but it's the first kind of introduction of what a Sith artifact can do. And then eventually that mask ends up in the Star Wars or in the Vader comic and is like gets on an Imperial soldier, and the person gets infested and with that Sith Lord, and that Sith Lord ends up fighting Vader and stuff like that. Anyway, it's a crazy story. But that was my first kind of introduction to these Sith artifacts, and it seems like they're introducing more and more, and it completely makes sense because I also think that this book, in my opinion, is somewhat of a precursor to the Acolyte series that's coming in Disney Plus, right?
I really hope so.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like they're introducing and kind of showing us all these little things, like the artifacts, the Acolytes, Exum Panchard, and how far back these Sith Lords go. Mm. And I think all of this history and all of these things are going to somehow play into the Acolyte series when we start learning really about how the Sith work, because they've been there, but we haven't deep dived into them in the canon side of things. So, Exegol has been there forever, apparently, the hidden world forever. And there's only two ways to get there with, two wayfinders. And I don't know. It's so much far beyond this, just the rule of two, which is what we've been living with for 40 years, I feel like. There's so much more there, and I'm very, very interested in a lot of it, if not all of it.
P.S. When are we getting our Darth Bane series?
Yeah, I totally want one of those too. Yes, and when you talk about Knights of the Old Republic, like the whole Sith.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all the Sith warriors and Homeworld and all that stuff. A
Sith Academy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I want all of that.
Please.
Because even they weren't all fallen Jedi. I mean, that's kind of the story, I guess, is the fallen Jedi first started that and trained these, at least that this was canon, like they found the whole world of Korriban, and they found the people that lived there, and they started training them on the dark side, and then it just expanded from there. But more, as we know, Moraband is another place where there's a big Sith temple, and that's what happens in Rebels. Then of course you got Exegol. You've got, there's Sith temples and artifacts all over the place. Very similar to what Luke did after Return of the Jedi. And he went looking for Jedi artifacts. Palpatine, as we know from the Aftermath series, Palpatine's been hiding Sith artifacts all over the galaxy as well. So it's crazy how big this book just jumps up the Sith lore.
It's a lore dump, but it's not a lore dump in the sense of it feels like a textbook.
Right.
It's very brilliantly told.
Totally. Yeah. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. And then you got outliers a little bit. I feel like Ochi of Bestoon. Like, I know Ochi apparently, and I didn't know this, apparently he has a lot of appearances in the comics right now. So I want to go and catch up on that a little bit. But when you're just watching the movie Rise of Skywalker, I don't even think he's ever mentioned by name. Is he? Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. Lando mentions him, I think.
Yeah, Lando mentions his name, and then we see a skeleton.
Yeah. But who the heck is Ochi of Bestoon? There's nothing. You don't know anything about him. Which, again, you can make the argument, well, you didn't know anything about Boba Fett and all that stuff. I get it.
Well, at least Boba Fett got more screen time.
True. Yes. And he lived and did something,
I'm saying.
But this, again, just kind of really just explains, obviously, his motivations, what he's trying to do in The Rise of Skywalker. You actually, if you listen to the audiobook, you can hear him speak, which is weird. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting, part of me did feel like, why, and I've always asked this question a little bit, but why, you've got all these acolytes on Exegol, like you mentioned, thousands of them, building Star Destroyers and trying to find a way to keep Palpatine alive. Why are your only warriors Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren? Like, why wouldn't you have more Sith warriors that could easily go out there and do your bidding?
Because I think he's still trying to keep it quiet.
Well, I don't know.
They don't mention, unless I missed it, they don't mention the Knights of Ren in Shadow of the Sith.
But the Knights of Ren are around.
Yeah, they're all around. I just wonder if, well, the thing is too, is that it's mentioned that it's an open bounty. It's just a bounty saying, hey, we need this girl.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid X amount of money if you hand over this girl. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the woman who is wearing the mask, I'm blanking out on her name.
Kaiza,
thank you. Kaiza discovers this, and she goes to Ochi and hires him. So she's not even working for Sidious or for Palpatine. She on her own, and she has her own agenda.
Well, she's trying to get to Exegol too, right?
And she's trying to get to Exegol, but she knows the only way she'll be able to get to Exegol is if she gets the girl.
Girl, yes.
So she has Ochi, thanks to that, thanks to the mask and the mind control. She has Ochi hunt her down. So it's not that Palpatine is asking these people to do it. He just put out a bounty.
Okay.
At least that's how I read it. I could be wrong, but the way I read it is that there's a bounty.
So the acolytes. So the acolytes are. Did they? Okay, so that's interesting. I'm trying to think of the order here of. because it's not actually. Once she puts the mask on, it's Exum Panchard that's actually trying to get to Exegol because he's trying to get resurrected, basically. Right? I think that's the storyline, right? He's trying to get to Exegol.
Trying to come back to power.
Yes. So the acolytes know. They know about Exum Panchard, right? In the mask.
They do.
Oh, okay.
I think they're all serving Palpatine because they think like he's the ruling Sith.
But some of them are with Ochi though, right?
I don't think any of them are with Ochi. I thought Ochi had to get his own crew together.
Oh, his own crew. Okay. Well, then some of them are with Kaiza, I thought then. Because she wasn't alone all the time.
No, Kaiza wasn't alone all the time. I think Kaiza had to create the droids.
Oh, the droids. Gosh, yes, the droids with the Kybers. Gosh, I almost forgot about them. Yes.
Yes, she had to create her own people.
That's right. And that's how, because Luke had shards of that.
She was hunting down the Kyber crystals.
The rest of the Kyber crystal. Yes, that Luke had.
She was hunting them down so that she could still have her own army.
Yes. That's right.
Robot pirates.
Yes. And see, that's what's awesome too about the book is you do actually get Luke interacting and fighting against the Sith like this, man. I mean,
it's a buddy cop book with Luke and Lando.
Yes. But there was I feel like there's always this kind of understanding that the Sith were dead after Return of Jedi. Mm-hmm. Luke was kind of on his own to go build a Jedi Academy again, and there's really no Sith to fight anymore. No other Dark Warriors to fight anymore. But we're learning now that he definitely had one, at least one.
Yes.
So that was just again a little eye opening to know. So then of course there, like you said, the buddy cop thing with Lando. There is that mention of Lando losing his daughter. Now in the encyclopedia of The Rise of Skywalker, you do know that he had his daughter, like it mentions in there that he lost a daughter. There's rumors that it could be Jaina that's in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if that's going to ever come out or not or be revealed, but that's the rumor. But it is mentioned a few times in here about what he struggles with. And I love that part of it. I love a couple of those conversations he's had with Luke about that. And Luke sees in his face that, he's trying to find this girl Rey because he couldn't find his own daughter.
Absolutely. And I mean, Lando hears about Ochi because Ochi gets drunk at a bar and
I know. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And with the whole idea of kidnapping children, Lando, like that just tugged at Lando's heart. And he's like, if I can prevent her from having the same fate of my daughter, which I don't know the fate of, but I can assume that's not happening on my watch.
No.
So he goes to Luke and he's like, hey, Luke, we need to take care of this.
Yeah. So I find it a little clever, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they as in Luke and Lando, they never find out the names of the family, right?
They never find out their names.
That's crazy. That's crazy because in The Rise of Skywalker now, when they all show up on Pisana, I mean, she is the girl he was looking for. And I don't think he ever puts that together, does he?
I can't tell. Like, I don't think he ever says that, but I think part of him just knows because if I remember correctly, Luke, I don't think even lays eyes on them once. No. Lando is the only person who does. Lando is the only person who actually talks to them. Luke never gets a chance to do that.
And I only think he only sees them when they're going on that ship, I think, and they're kind of in disguise though, right?
They're in disguise, but he sees a girl in the backpack.
Yes.
So I don't know if his eyesight is absolutely spectacular
Right.
and he's able to see her face and know that that's
not.
her. But I don't know.
But there's no way, because he spends this time jump now. He spends 13 years, looking for his daughter from Pasana.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way he could think at all that Rey, all of a sudden, that shows up there is like this girl that he was looking for 13, 14 years ago.
That's my assumption too.
Yeah. But it's just crazy to think, and like even Luke sitting there on Octu, trying to teach Rey a little bit. I mean, does he realize like that is the girl that we were looking for? Again, that story didn't probably exist when The Rise of Skywalker or even The Last Jedi was getting made. So
that's a nice segue. I don't think they had that in mind at all, because I mean, 7, 8, and 9 are just so disjointed from each other.
Yeah.
They just are. There's no way. So they did all the movies and they're like, okay, well, how do we fix this mess?
Yeah, because this thing came out.
Brilliant masterpiece.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, because it's already almost been 3 years since the movie came out, the last movie. So it's like, there's no way they would have put this story out sooner if they had it. I feel like, right? So let's get there a little bit. What else is there to talk about? I don't know. I think we hit on pretty much a lot of the big pieces that stood out. So let's just get into it. So what do you think? How do you think they should have done this story before this book? Like, should they have done this story before or somehow during the movies? It should have been part of the movies.
This should have been episode 7.
Should have been episode 7. Wow. Okay.
I think this should have been episode 7. If you're going to stick with the story that we see in the prequels, in these sequels, this is your episode 7.
So you don't have. Do you do what I would have done, which is combine 7 and 8, or do you just drop 8 and do this?
I would have taken part of 8. And I would have incorporated part of 8 into 9.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, sorry. I would have, okay, now I get what you're saying. Sorry. I would have actually you're right. I would infuse Force Awakens and The Last Jedi together.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those two together.
Yes. And it made that 7 and then, made that 7. Oh, made that 8. And this be episode 7?
The book be episode 7.
Oh, so this be the beginning. Okay, I get it.
Beginning.
Okay. So then the reveal of Rey is not like the Rey story is not really a reveal then.
No, it's not really a reveal. I think that there's a way that you could keep Palpatine a secret until the end.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have to keep Palpatine out of it somehow. Yeah.
And you could totally do that. You could
100%. Yeah.
Rey's father running through this really weird place, and all of a sudden he gets on start off the movie with that. You see this kid running through this weird place, comes across someone he knows who calls him master. Okay, he comes from some form of royalty, and then he gets on a ship and goes off. You don't know his backstory. You just know he's running away from something. Keep Palpatine out of it. So you think, oh, maybe it's a Sith from the past, because we see that with the mask. Maybe it's another Sith from the past that's going after Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And so you keep Palpatine a secret the whole time. But you know everything else. Like, I don't think that takes away from anything.
Here's a thought I just thought of, which I think would have been neat, because this is a very thick book.
Yes.
And it's sitting over there somewhere on the shelf. Yeah, right there. But it's a really thick book. I kind of almost think that I'm starting to think that you could almost stretch this story, because the thing about, if you combine it with the sequel trilogy, you kind of you're focusing on Dathan, which is the father, and Miramar, which is the mother. I mean, they're actually very important characters.
Yes.
Especially now with this book.
Yes.
So you almost could have, had the book extended out, even maybe write another book and extend this story out about this search for Rey with Luke, even had some side stories with the temple and Ben. Have that be 7, 8, and 9.
Oh.
Then have 10, 11, 12 be what we got in the sequel trilogy.
Interesting.
I mean, you could, because I think this part is, this is part of the Skywalker saga. I mean, Luke's in it, and then you got the Palpatine still in it. And I'm very, again, I think her parents have become a very important part of the timeline because they are Palpatines also. So I don't know that, with the Sith assassin and, with these relics and seeing that in the movies and Luke doing more research on that and, informing us about that, like that's a trilogy in itself right there.
You're right. That actually might have been the way to go with this.
Man.
And if there's a way we could add Han and Leia in there.
Yes, totally.
I mean, it's like there's an obvious way. You have Ben Solo, so clearly. Maybe we learn about what happened.
Or you get more of the New Republic stuff that we haven't really gotten. Yeah. We never got any of that.
I like that. This book should have been expanded a bit more with all those extra elements and have that be your 7, 8, 9, and then have the mess that we were given as the sequels be your 10, 11, 12. And it's no longer that bad of a mess.
Yeah. Well, I think 10, 11, 12, then, you kind of know. I mean, it's like then all of a sudden this trilogy would be the prequels to that. Right. So you know who Rey is in the beginning, but still get introduced to Poe and Finn and, and all those other characters, Kylo Ren, because that's the thing too, is in this trilogy, you can kind of show, in the end, you can show Ben's turn.
Yes.
If it lines up, right? Oh man.
So this is basically what we're telling you, Disney. You know how you did a Lion King 1.5 to tell Timon and Pumbaa's story?
That's right.
In the Lion King trilogy, Lion King, whatever that was.
Yeah.
What you need to do is you need to do a episode 6 1/3. Or no, wait. No, it would be 6 1/4.
6 1/4.
And 6 3/4. Then we get to 7. That's what you need to do.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Make the trilogy inside between 6 and 7. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Done. Problem solved.
That's right. I think we did solve it. Yeah.
Yep.
Bottom line is, there's just a lot in this book. The best that novel to you?
It depends on the day between this and Dark Disciple, but yeah.
I'm with you. I think I told you this, but I still would probably put Dark Disciple like barely ahead of this, but this is like 1A. Only because I felt like the ending was a little just kind of like a wrap up and not in a complete setup to, the movie.
Well, it couldn't be a setup. It was how many years before the movie took place? 13?
Well, 13, but but it did because it basically told you what Lando was going to do for the next 13 years.
That's true.
And then Luke was just going to go back to, training Ben. And then of course we know what happens there.
But like, to me, that makes me go, no, Luke didn't get it. Like, he thought he solved the problem and he did it. Like, so to me, it wasn't like, it didn't wrap up as well. It wrapped up great because it left me as the reader going, no.
Well, I was honestly, what I was looking for was I was kind of hoping for like some kind of cliffhanger that they would make another book. Like, yeah. I don't want this to end. Like, I wanted like another Sith artifact to pop up. I want Luke to go after it again. You know, I don't know. I thought there would be some kind of setup like this. Yes, this gave you all the answers for Rise, but there's another story here that Luke is going to go do that's not part of the movies. That's like all new. And anyway, I was kind of thinking that was going to drop, but just kind of ended. And it was like, oh, now I got to go watch Rise of Skywalker. But, no, it's definitely up there. It's like it's definitely one of the best books that's out there. So if you haven't experienced Shadow of Sith, you need to go read or listen. Listening is just fantastic. I mean, audiobooks, Star Wars audiobooks are just, it's awesome. So 409, I see it says 496 pages. That's a lot, right?
That is a lot.
Okay, because I don't read the books all the time, but
I feel like quickly running over to my bookshelf, seeing I could find a 400-page book.
Like the Harry Potter books, are they that much?
I don't know. 1 second. Let me see. What have I got?
I don't even know. I guess I can look up Dark Disciple. I think.
As thick as we thought it was.
What's that?
It's not as thick as we thought it was.
Which one? Shadow of Sith?
Okay, so this is 750 pages.
But that's a smaller book too, though, right?
Yeah, that's true. So that's as thick as 400.
Yeah. So Dark Disciple was 336 pages.
Ah.
So that's a lot smaller than this.
Yeah, that is a lot smaller.
So it's a thick book. Like it's on the shelf. It's pretty thick over there.
Thick. It's a read.
It's a read, and it's a listen. It's like normal speed. It's like 16 hours or something.
Yeah, I was about to say I thought it was like 16, 17 hours to listen to it.
Yeah, it was long. It took a lot of grass mowing for me to get through it, and car rides. So, but I did. I couldn't wait to get in the car and listen. Man, it's so good.
So good.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll talk more about it as we go. I mean, there's all kinds of people out there talking about it, and then of course, we'll do a quick review of it. I guess on maybe we don't have to do it on Beyond the Saga. Actually, I don't know. Well, we probably should, but
probably should.
Yeah.
Just in case.
So anyway, yes, thanks everybody for listening. Like I said, I don't think we didn't really. I don't feel like we spoiled too much at all.
I don't think so.
Yeah. There's a lot in there. There's so much in there we didn't even touch. So much. It's like, what? Like, yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. That was it for this episode. Thanks for hanging out with me and Hannah. Of course, follow us on InsideTheForce.com and on YouTube. And if you like to support the show through Patreon, we're at patreon.com/InsideTheForce. And look for all of our shows on YouTube, Council Sessions, Hannah and I's Beyond the Saga, Corey and I doing some Dark Knowledge, things like that. So then, of course, come back every week here on Inside the Force, get you some news and some unique topics like this one. Mm-hmm. As always, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.